2022 Roadmap. My name is Alonzo Miranda, acting as the moderator for this afternoon's program. On behalf of the organizers, we extend our greatest appreciation to each and every one of you for being able to attend this event. To officially start our program, let us all welcome the Chief of Staff of the Department of Trade and Industry and Undersecretary of the Management Services Group, Undersecretary Ireneo Boy Vives Monte, for our welcome remarks.
Unmute. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the e-commerce roadmap 2022. And to our distinguished guests this afternoon, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Secretary Ramon Lopez of DTI, the Secretary of Labor and Employment, Secretary Silvestre Bellio, Secretary Gregorio Nasan of the DICT, Secretary Deputy Commissioner Edward James D. Buco of the Bureau of Customs, Chairman Norman Fulgencio of the Philippine Postal Corporation, Deputy Director Rose Ordaneta of TESDA, Deputy Commissioner Lani David of BIR. Of course, we have also this afternoon Mr. Orlando Vea of Paymaya, Ray Alimurung of Lazada, Dino Araneta of Quadex, and Mia Bulatao. And of course, from PCCI, Ms. Bing Lim Hoko. We have also this afternoon our consultants, Dr. Victor Abola, Dr. Fontanilla, Director X Valles, Mr. Kelvin Tan, and the rest of the people who help the DTI in coming up with this roadmap. The formulation of the roadmap or the e-commerce roadmap is a story worthy to be told because it is a story of about how something big can be done or achieved with a little cost. Just to give everyone a background, for the past year since the E-Commerce Act of 2000, that was 20 years ago, was enacted, the DTI had no e-commerce office. It was simply an ad hoc group because the specific mandates of the E-Commerce Act were given to regular units of the Department of Trade and Industry, such as the Consumer Protection Group. However, having an appreciation of what e-commerce brings to MSMEs, Secretary Ramon Lopez pursued its institutionalization in the DTI and was successful in his pursuit because last year the DBM approved an e-commerce division under the Competitiveness Bureau, composed of 11 people. Way back in August 2019, while remaining ad hoc, the e-commerce team began to review and updating the Philippine e-commerce roadmap, which was set to end in 2020. With a limited budget, the team was able to mobilize support from the e-commerce stakeholders by being innovative, getting maximum returns from minimal cost. The DTI is grateful that we have a team of young, dynamic, and passionate individuals, headed by a like-minded supervisor in Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco, who carry out the challenging task of promoting e-commerce. To the e-commerce team, keep up the good work. The DTI appreciates the overwhelming support of the private sector in finalizing this roadmap. From the conduct of brown bag brigade sessions, meaning no merienda served, to the generosity of the UP Law Center, Union Bank, IMMAP, and the Asian Consulting Group of Mona Brea, which hosted the focus group discussions, the inputs collected and generated from these sessions will now be revealed today. When the roadmap formulation was slightly delayed due to COVID-19, the e-commerce sector once again stepped up to support the DTI in its effort to assist MSMEs affected by the pandemic. With the help of from Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco, professors at the UAP Strategic Business Economics Program, we shall now see the final results. This is bayanihan at work. The e-commerce roadmap of 2022 is immediate and short because there is a sense of urgency on the reforms that need to be made if we are to take advantage of e-commerce. Our end goal is to contribute to reviving the economy and boosting resiliency by unlocking the potential of businesses, especially our MSMEs, through e-commerce. We welcome you here today in this virtual event, and to those watching on Facebook Live, welcome po sa inyong lahat. We are equally eager to hear the work that needs to be done. Magandang hapon po at maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig.
Maraming salamat po, Yusek Boy Vismonte. To give his keynote message, let us all welcome the Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, Honorable Secretary Ramon M. Lopez.
Thank you. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. To my partner, close partner of DTI, Secretary Sylvester Bello III of DOLE, Assistant Secretary Nikki Tutay as well, Commissioner Cesar Billy Dulay, BIR, represented by DEPCOM Lani David, Chairman Norman Fulgencio of Philippine Postal Corporation, of course, Undersecretary Boy Vismonte and Undersecretary Ruth Castelo. And let me acknowledge also Undersecretary Dennis Mapa of PSA, Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco, as well as former USEC and now Director General of IPO Philippines, Roel Barba, Deputy Commissioner James Dibuco of Customs, Deputy Director General Rose Ordaneta of TESTA, Director Leo Urbistondo of DICT, Director Melchor Labasan of BSP, Mr. Ray Alimurong of Lazada, a very good partner of DTI, our partner also from PCCI, Ma'am, Chairperson Alegria Bing Limhoco, Mr. Dino Araneta of QuadX, and another longtime partner, Mr. Orlando Doy Vea of Paymaya and the PLDT Group. Ladies and gentlemen, sa inyo pong lahat, magandang hapon at maraming salamat. So, thank you to all the participants for coming to today's virtual launch. Finally, after more than a year of preparation, we have an updated Philippine e-commerce roadmap in place that will set the course of our country's e-commerce until the end of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's term in mid of 2022. As roadmaps go, we take into account that e-commerce is fast and agile, and the technology life cycle is short and sweet. As such, we've prepared an immediate and short-term plan designed with long-term horizon. Our goal that through this roadmap, the actions we take in the next 2 years will bear fruits in the years to come, especially in the post-pandemic future. Before anything else, let us recognize the representatives of the e-commerce ecosystem present here. These include the platforms, the payment gateways, and fintechs, logistics service providers, and telcos. We also have enablers and our partners in government, development partners, the foreign chambers, as well as tech giants like Google, Facebook, and Fiverr. Thank you for your presence here today, and we hope that we can continue working together in strengthening our country's e-commerce. In the last 70 years, our economy has had a 5% average growth per year and over 6% in the last few years as a result of our strong macroeconomic fundamentals. Our growth hit a wall in 2020, as other economies did, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic challenges. As noted by the Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA, yesterday, our GDP last year in total hit a negative 9.5% after a negative 8.3% in the fourth quarter. This is the first annual contraction of our GDP since 1998, a year after the Asian financial crisis happened. Despite these challenges, Our economy's trajectory clearly points to a gradual recovery. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, our GDP moved from a low of minus 16.9% in the second quarter of last year, which had the most stringent community quarantine measure, to negative 8.3% in the fourth quarter as our economy reopened and the lockdown was eased. Quarter on quarter, I remember that our GDP grew 8% from second to third and 5% from third to fourth quarter. We're also seeing other signs of economic recovery with the opening of more businesses. Our unemployment, which dropped from 5% to 17.7%, or which went up rather, during the height of the lockdown, 17.7%, has stabilized in a way to 8.7%. Furthermore, our manufacturing PMI, or the Purchasing Managers Index, rose already to 50.1 in September, the highest since February, which indicates the resumption of operations in the manufacturing sector. That number actually went down to the 30s level at the height of the pandemic. Despite the pandemic, our Board of Investment registered 1.02 trillion pesos in approved investments for last year. This is the second highest amount in a pandemic year, no? In the agency's 53-year history. The highest was the year before, which reached 1.14 trillion pesos. Also, there's this UN Conference on Trade and Development, or UNCTAD, where it said that we managed to buck the trend as FDIs rose by 29% in the Philippines last year, even as other countries in the region contracted. And for the whole Southeast Asian region, the decline was 31%. So I think it was only the Philippines that increased by 29%. Thus, we are optimistic that despite the COVID-19, our country can recover and our economic growth can again reach pre-pandemic levels and beyond. Our economic growth can also take advantage of the e-commerce opportunities that had been brought to light by the pandemic. We started the journey of the e-commerce roadmap in August 2019, mindful already at the time that e-commerce was the wave of the future. But when the pandemic struck, we saw e-commerce adoption in the Philippines boom. Because of the community quarantine lockdowns, many of our people saw the convenience of buying online. What's more, the business name registration system of the DTI reported a significant increase in the number of online sellers that registered their business names. From 1,700 from January to March in 2020, the number of online businesses zoomed to years 2021 alone. Online business registration has already hit 93,318. This is a clear indication of Filipino resilience as many of our countrymen adapted to the challenging times. This growth of e-commerce in the country was also made easier, and thanks to many of you who are here with us this afternoon. In April and May of last year, at the height of the quarantine period, the e-commerce sector banded together in true Bayanihan spirit to support DTI's reboot package for online enterprises to assist micro SMEs. The marketplace platforms, last mile delivery providers, the fintechs, the telcos, and our friends from Google and Facebook all contributed to this joint effort. They shared information, softened onboarding policies and terms, provided discounts, and contributed time and effort in upskilling our micro SMEs through our very successful Control Plus B's Reboot Now program. Salamat po sa inyong lahat, sa inyong mga tulong sa ating micro SMEs. We would also like to thank our logistics service providers, our frontliners, who continue to work even with the harshest conditions to make sure that goods were delivered. Furthermore, they work closely with DTI to ensure this unimpeded flow of goods. Thus, our economy recovers from the pandemic. As our economy recovers, we can harness the fast-growing e-commerce in the country to boost our economic growth. We've already seen how e-commerce has come to our rescue when and was ready to fill the void left by the brick and mortar businesses unable to serve our people because of the lockdowns. Online retail, delivery services, online entertainment, digital services, telehealth, work from home arrangements, digital payments, all of these helped us in the past year and continue to do so until now. Just to inform you, UNCTAD conducted a survey last year to see how the pandemic has changed the way consumers use e-commerce and digital solutions. While the survey has shown that people are shopping online more frequently and rely more on the internet for news, it also suggested that changes in online activities are likely to outlast the pandemic. In this light, we need to take advantage of how the pandemic has boosted e-commerce in the Philippines, given that people now accept the digital life as the new normal. We are confident that the new e-commerce roadmap will help us in this regard. From a baseline of 599 or almost 600 billion pesos or about $12 billion that e-commerce contributed to our economy in 2020, then that's about 3.4% share to GDP. Our target is to increase this to 850 billion pesos or $17 billion by 2021 or 4.3% share and 1.2 trillion pesos or $24 billion or 5.5% share by 2022. Furthermore, we hope to increase the number of e-commerce enterprises from 500,000 estimate in 2020 to 750,000 this year, 2021, and 1 million by 2022. At the same time, we need to address the challenges that the pandemic has revealed in our country's e-commerce system. We hope that with today's launch of our e-commerce roadmap, we can move to address these challenges. The new roadmap has 20 strategies and 22 action agenda that revolve around a simple formula. This is speed plus security plus structure equals sales. This formula was derived and synthesized from the numerous sessions conducted with stakeholders. For this, we would like to thank our able DTI e-commerce team, economists, esteemed economist Dr. Vic Abola from the University of Asia and the Pacific, and Professor Ronilo Balbiran of the Research Education and Institutional Development, or READ, Foundation. Allow me to discuss the four key narratives of our roadmap. Number one, basta e-commerce madali. Madali is our mantra. At the end of the day, we want more online sellers and more online buyers who will buy more repeatedly. Madali means easy and fast, but we've also made it stand for market access, digitalization, and logistics integration. Letter A, market access. Whether through cross-border e-commerce transaction or easy onboarding by MSMEs to marketplace platforms, the plan calls for facilitating ease of doing online business. Letter B, digitalization. This focuses on the digital transformation of enterprises, whether micro, SME, as well as the digitalization of government, including also, whether micro, SME, or the large corporations. We need to scale up e-commerce, whether this is B2C, B2B, or B2G, government. Logistics integration, the end game is to reduce logistics costs. Presently, logistics costs in the Philippines is comparatively higher than our neighbors at 27% in cost over sales as compared to Thailand's 11%. Number two, building trust is our challenge. Unfortunately, the uptake of e-commerce has resulted in an increase in consumer complaints. According to our DTI Consumer Protection Group, the total number of complaints related to internet transactions has reached 15,947 or 967 in 2020 and over 857 in January 2021 alone. For e-commerce to succeed, government and private sector must install redress mechanisms that are far more efficient than what we have today. But we must also instill the values and ethics in our citizens, both merchants and consumers alike, to serve as the foundation of trust in our country's e-commerce. As such, we thank Congress for heeding the call of President Duterte to prioritize the Internet Transactions Act, or ITA, whose provisions will enable government, especially DTI, to function more effectively and more responsibly. In this regard, we thank the House of Representatives, Deputy Speaker, and former Chair of the Committee on Trade and Industry, Deputy Speaker Wes Gatchalian, for pioneering the work that he has done for ITA. We also look forward to the passage of the bill in the Senate with Senator Coco Pimentel in the driver's seat. We are confident that with this legislation, as the bill's declaration of policy states, we can promote and maintain a robust e-commerce environment in the country by building trust between online merchants and consumers. Kayaan ang Pilipino is our promise. Investments and innovation is critical to achieving a robust internet economy, and tech startups will play a key role. Our country needs to invest and support tech startups. This means the government needs to facilitate funding and financially support the digital transformation of businesses. We will do whatever is necessary to harness the creative, disruptive, innovative, and entrepreneurial spirits of our people as they become the champions of e-commerce in the country. Tatayaan natin ang ating dahil. Number four, full of government is key. We are particularly grateful to our fellow public servants who are here in support of our e-commerce roadmap. The presence of the agencies today should give us all confidence that the Duterte administration is serious in sustaining the momentum to promote e-commerce. Finally, our call to action. However, e-commerce not only requires a whole of government approach, it needs a whole of society approach. With today's roadmap, we not only have a framework, but concrete strategies and steps to help us shape the future we've envisioned in our Envision Natin 2040. To this end, the government will play a lead role in facilitating what's been outlined in the roadmap while also enabling the different stakeholders involved. But the government must also set an example by embracing e-government capabilities and making their online services and infrastructure easily available to businesses and consumers. Likewise, the various agencies must operate seamlessly with the public being able to transact with them online. And actually, on this part, I'd like to also mention that only yesterday we had the soft launch of the online registration of businesses. And that means that you don't have to go to the SEC, to SSS Pag-ibig PhilHealth, to the mayor's office, at least for some LGUs that are already connected, and also the BIR. And this is really an effort as part of the e-government objective of President Duterte's administration to really make it comfortable to our business registrants and generally make it comfortable for the public. Lastly, Filipinos must work to build their trust in our e-commerce system. Our people need use our existing online platforms and infrastructure, push them to the limit, and contribute to their growth and strengthening. It is only then, as we repeat the mantra, basta e-commerce, madali, we can begin to redefine e-commerce from electronic commerce to easy commerce. To conclude, as we recharge our economy and build back better in the post-pandemic era, let us create a better normal, building back better by taking advantage of the benefits of e-commerce. And as we aim for fast, convenient, and easy commerce in the digital world, let us remember that more e-commerce means more jobs, more employment generated for our countrymen. This in turn will give our people a more comfortable and higher quality of life, as promised by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayo.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Mon Lopez. Now, I would like to call on our e-commerce lead, Assistant Secretary Mary Jean T. Pacheco, to present the e-commerce Philippines 2022 roadmap. ASEC Jean.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ASEC.
Can you see me? Yeah. Okay.
I think your video is off to ASEC.
Can you see me now and hear me now?
Yes, ASEC.
Secmon, good afternoon, sir. To all our to all the sir, ano po no? I am seeing the number of people who are here today. We are fully packed. Napakadami po, close to ano na ho, mapupuno na tayo, sir. I'd like to thank everyone who are in the panel room. Sec Bello, good afternoon po, sir. Maraming pong salamat to all the panelists, and I also see the private sector who are, sir, full ano po, i-report ko po, sir, sa inyo na nandito po ang mga platforms, ang market, nandito si Google, lahat po, ang logistics, nandito po silang lahat. So maraming pong salamat. My task po for today, sir, is to present the e-commerce Philippines 2022 roadmap. At everyone here in the room, almost as mentioned by Yusek Boy kanina ho, that this has really gone through a very extensive engagement process. And while we were a little bit delayed because of the pandemic, we were supposed to introduce this and launch this as instructed was last year. Ano po, kasi nag-end po yung 2016 to 2020 roadmap. But because we really had to adjust and COVID-proof our roadmap, we kind of requested for a little bit of an extension. And today, 2021 January is the beginning of the e-commerce roadmap 2022. So allow me po to present a little bit of what the highlights of my presentation will be. We believe that it's about the journey. The journey is also as interesting as the destination. So we will tell you very briefly the formulation process. We will share with you the initial outputs because of the engagement that we have done in starting 2019. And then, ang final po natin is really the strategy map that was basically prepared by both the private sector and government, and I am pleased to report about that now later on as in my presentation. So yun po, sir. Now we always begin. In this job that SecMon has given me, every time that we are tasked to do the discussion on e-commerce, it's always the question is always asked, what are we? Who are we as e-commerce? No, the state of Philippine e-commerce, and this always guides me and sometimes amuses me and gives me a little bit of perspective. So I'd like to start off with this so that everyone in the room will have a little bit of an idea of what we are, no, in terms of e-commerce Philippines. So of course, our population is 108 million according to the Philippine Statistical Authority. But, 173 million mobile subscriptions. So we have more mobile phones than we have the population. So we all know that some of us have 2 or even 3 telephones. According to Google, and we really rely and we are really looking at the Google Temasek study, and that really is a very informative tool for us. According to Google, the Philippine internet economy in 2020 is 7.5 billion. And the potential is huge because it is expected to grow in 2025 to 28 billion. Now we are also talking about the share to GDP. If you look at the Google study, Google says about 2.1%. If you look at the PSA, based on the 2017, I believe, it's about less than half a percent. So we are all looking at all of this as benchmarks. And because this is e-commerce, we are also particularly interested in payments. And by this, we are very much closely in touch with our partners from the Bangko Sentral. Uh, ito yung important statistic. Do you know that we have more unbanked than banked? And if we are to go into e-commerce, we must at least have e-wallets. This is what we want to do. They have to have at least a bank account. And only about 29%, I understand, based on the figures, that do have a bank account. So if you want to do e-commerce, we must make sure that we are banked, that there's a bank account, we have at least an e-wallet. Now, another interesting fun fact that we see. So the Filipino, we spend 10 hours in the internet all the time, but we do it mostly for social. Either we use it as Waze or do Messenger or that or do Facebook. We don't buy. We don't buy and we don't sell. And that's what we want to encourage with the e-commerce. We want more sellers and we also want more buyers. That's the goal. According to statistics, the average spending in the Philippines is $21 compared to Indonesia's $142 and $136 in Thailand. And if you look at the consumer behavior, 96% with mobile, they search, but they don't really buy because only 76% actually buy. Now we talk about the internet. Of course, we know 22 Mbps is the Philippine speed, but the global speed is 47 Mbps. So this lay of the land is what we would like to improve on all aspects. And this is why how we are inspired by the strategies that have been identified by both the private sector and government in moving forward. So I mentioned that in crafting the e-commerce roadmap, it was really a journey that is quite impressive in a way and really showcases the Bayanihan spirit. It all started with just 4 phases, but because we had COVID, we did a little bit of a hump. We decided to, when we stopped the road shows and I think Quadex is here and Lazada's here, they were with us when we went to Baguio for the road show. But that had to stop because when the year came, we had to prepare for COVID. So nagkaroon ho ng konting delay. So what we did, because there was an instruction at the time, so we reprioritized and we said, and the secretary gave an instruction, can you please do program for SME? To help them from offline to online. And then, dun po, the e-commerce sector banded together and that's where the effort came. No? So, yun po yung nangyari doon. So, nagkaroon ho ng konting lull. But what we did to go back to the roadmap, we decided to really go into additional studies to validate. So we interviewed the key, we conducted a key informant interview with the platforms to affirm or to review whether the situations in the past remain and how we can in fact address COVID, which in effect accelerated the adoption of e-commerce. So after that, we really came out with more information. That's why we had to talk to the Philippine Statistical Authority because we realized how important the national ID system is and how important it is to have a good data collection system, and that was very engaging for us, and that's why it is a key strategy in the e-commerce roadmap. We talked to the ICT. We also talked to the startups because again we see the value of investments and innovation, which is key to a successful and robust e-commerce. So there, now we are in the phase 4, which is the launch. And then the last one is when we will now disseminate and inform the public about the e-commerce roadmap. So, okay. So, going to this, I'll just go and really pass through it. So we started, you remember, we started in August when the secretary did a kickoff. So what's the roadmap about? It's about engagement. When the Department of Trade and Industry resumed, and decided to update the roadmap, it was very important that it's the private sector. The private sector is the key, and that's what exactly we need. So we looked at the private sector. We invited the platforms, the payment gateways, the logistics service providers. Then we also invited government, the intermediaries. We did thinking sessions, focus group discussions, brown bag brigade sessions, stakeholder consultations. all of that was very rich with information, and that information we analyze and really consolidate, and this is the output that we have today. It's also about direction setting. What was very critical is the guidance of our principal. Secmon, I remember very well when he said during the kickoff, what's important, you make sure, he said, you need to build trust between online buyers and online sellers, which, during the course of the formulation of the roadmap was actually echoed by many, and that is why building trust is really a something that is inherent in the plan. It's all about looking at it through various lenses. We had to make sure that we talk to the payment gateways, the logistics service providers, the last mile logistics. We needed to talk to the platforms because the platforms serve a purpose to have a robust e-commerce. And especially, we had to talk to government because government, as regulator, need to improve the way we do our services. Plus the fact that we also need to share what really needs to be done based on the perspective of the private stakeholders. So it's about adopting a whole of government approach, which we have now started to say all of all e-government approach. No? So you will see that this is not just the Department of Trade and Industry. That's why today's day is special, because all the agencies that we have invited are actually here today, and they will be able to react and maybe expound on many of the issues that you have raised with the DTI, on specific issues relating to their respective mandates. It's about finding solutions. In the process, we realized that there are specific issues that were obvious and familiar and frequently mentioned. So these are in the areas of taxation, consumer protection, data privacy, intellectual property, ease of doing business, and piracy. So what we had to do in the brown bag sessions was really to go deep dive. We did deep dive and really try to understand what the problems are. So we did review our past, and what's the past? There is a Philippine e-commerce roadmap where it had 52 actionable items, and it followed the APEC checklist of infrastructure, innovation, investments, information flow, intellectual capital, integration, implementation, and monitoring. Of course, we'd like to report to you all now that our grade is a 70. So maybe you'll say, nako, pasado ba yan or pagsak? But 70%. But of course, we had to stop monitoring during the COVID period. But the thing is, because it's a continuation of the roadmap, then we hope that we will be able to continue some of the actionable items in that, which you'll also see in the roadmap. There. So nung dumating yung COVID in March 2020, we decided to come up as a means of COVID proofing the study. We came out with a rapid assessment study. This was really just a quick sensing, like a quick sensing of SMEs. And here, I'd like to recognize, for example, the Globe, which also helped us in the conduct of the study. So, in that particular study, ang sabi, most business respondents have access to computers. However, they are not maximizing these tools for business. So that was a general finding and observation of that rapid assessment. And then businesses across the industries said they need greater government support relative to internet speed, cybersecurity, ease of doing business, and logistics systems and infrastructure. We did another study, and this time is the key informant interviews with the platform. Earlier on, I was telling you and reporting to you that we were really very much in touch, and we thank the platforms who are here today. I fondly remember seeing all seated together, Lazada, Zalora, Shopee seated together with all of the other platforms, and they were very much active in the engagement process. What we did was to get back to them again, to do key informant interviews, and very briefly, what the research study mentioned was that really the platforms uh, focused and emphasized on the need to speed up the implementation of the ID system. It also said that we needed to create a central agency that will oversee all the key players in the value chain. The platforms also said there is a need to strengthen the country's weak internet infrastructure, and they were very much unanimous in making sure that we grow cashless payments and build more trust in virtual trade. So that was the uh, pervading mode insofar as the platforms are concerned. The next additional study that served as input in the crafting of the e-commerce Philippines 2022 roadmap would be the digitalization of SMEs. In the digitalization of SMEs, we were basically inspired by the ASEAN study conducted and which categorized SMEs in ASEAN as basic, intermediate, or advanced. The purpose of that particular of the study is for us in government, particularly the DTI, to determine what kind of development interventions are needed and not to apply a one shoe size fits all, tama ba? But one size fits all. Yeah. What we wanted really was to make sure that the development intervention that DTI will give to the SMEs would be in line with the category that they belong to. So we realized when we did the study that we could not go with just the basic, intermediate, and advanced because we have added one level. It is a level zero. Marami po sa ating SMEs that were interviewed, basically 21% does not even have a business email. So, meron po silang mobile, ginagamit po sa personal, pero hindi po ginagamit sa business. So, that is one category. And then when we ask them, why are you not done? Because my customers don't use it anyway. I don't need it. Yung iba naman sinasabi, I don't know how. So, that particular category means that the Department of Trade, SME group will have to design specific programs. And we in the e-commerce as well are slowly are working together with them. So, 20, and then pareho na rin po yung ASEAN kasi majority po talaga ay level 1, so about 51%, and really 6% are in the advanced stage. So there, it's about the need to revise the metrics. Kanina po, the Secretary of Trade already presented the targets. I believe these targets are quite uh, ambitious, but that's what we want. We always want to make sure that we give big, hairy, audacious goals, but we have to revise the metrics because one of the things that were told to us during the engagement was we need to clarify the metrics, which we have done through the e-commerce roadmap. Okay, so it's about creating a new narrative. I am glad that the Secretary has sort of given you already the perspective that he presented earlier, which is the SSS. Diba? Yung pong SSS is equals to sales is, okay. Yun pong SSS ay speed, security, structure is equivalent to sales, and that is really the and that is the major message. Pero yun pong tagline natin ay basta e-commerce madali. For us, we know what madali is, right? It's easy, it's convenient, it's fast. So that's really kaya nga sabi ni Secmon, di ba? Easy commerce magiging imbes electronic commerce, easy commerce. So basta e-commerce madali. Pero kami naman na nandito po tayo sa nasa program and policy development government, we have given madali a new meaning, and it's market access digitalization, and logistics integration. The good thing about having an interactive, sabi may nag-text na sa akin, sana daw hindi digitalization, dapat daw digital adoption. Pwede rin ho, no? Digital adoption. So, Sir Attorney Yves, thank you for that. So it's all about understanding the e-commerce ecosystem and the architecture. Here, I hope you'd give me a little bit of some time because this is one of the few things that I really appreciated the most. Alam po ninyo, for someone who is not familiar with e-commerce, as a very proud digital immigrant, hindi ho ako marunong mag-online dati. So, nung si Secmon ho, inassign niya ako dito, una po yung business name registration, doon ho ako natuto ng mga e-payment. So, nag-ano po ako sa mga GCash, mga Paymaya. So, ganun ho. And then yung mga platforms, ngayon ko lang ho masyadong nagawa niya na medyo natuto ho. So, in the beginning, we were really wanting to understand what the architecture is. So in the roadmap, we saw that it was essential for people, whether especially those who are not really knowledgeable on e-commerce and those that are not in the sector, to understand what the architecture is. Of course, when we say architecture, it's really like defining who the players are. And I still go back to being very thankful to the private sector because they were the ones who provided this instrument to tell us this is how it looks like. DTI, this is how it looks like, and it made us understand what it is. So it's all about the reach. And when it's e-commerce, it's buyer and then it's seller. But we go down to the infrastructure. It is really you need a proper infrastructure or the foundation, which is either hardware, software, and of course the people that need to man the business and the digital skills required to make sure that really important. Because in the case of the platform, I realized that iba po pala yung marketplace dito din sa online retailers. And then we again saw, yun po, no, meron tayong standard nito, no, we just recently approved the adoption of a standard on e-commerce patterned after the Enterprise Singapore standard, which really defines marketplace and online retailer. So yun pong marketplace, ito po yung mga platforms, there's a linking between buyer and seller. No? Ito pong online retail, ito po yung mga direkto na meron. So pwede pong SM, meron po tayong as opposed to marketplace na ito po yung mga Lazada o kaya yung mga gawin.ph. So, may mga marketplaces po. Yung iba pong online diretso po, no? Pwede pong diretso sa mga website nila. So ito po, diretso po sa company. So yan po yung pero online po, no? So we do have enablers. When we say access, we're talking about, for example, Google. Google gives us a lot of information. It provides information that if we only use it properly, the merchants would be able to improve its business. We also have, for example, the use of Instagram, which are all photos, and that will also help again increase our business. The training, these are all again. I have to recognize, for example, our learning partner in the Control Biz FEMS International. They have been helping us in providing digital skills, even foundational and entrepreneurial skills for online sellers, and then payment, of course, and logistics. Again, the logistics service providers as an integral part in the entire e-commerce ecosystem. On the right side, of course, is the regulator, the government, and by government there are a lot of teams: consumer protection, data protection, trade, taxation and tariffs, labor. That's why andito po ang ating kalihim because malaking issue po sa e-commerce yung pong gig economy. This is mga drivers, mga susi natin, mga riders, ayan po. They really are a key in the e-commerce architecture. So, yan po yung architecture. So, ano naman po yung e-commerce ecosystem? By ecosystem, simply lang po, what we are trying to say, that this is ito po yung relationships no ng mga players. So sa una nga, meron po kayong customer, meron kayong online seller. Kung kayo ay bibili, mamimili kayo, bibili kayo, magbabayad kayo, tapos i-deliver sa inyo. Pero tinutulungan tayo ng digital platforms, meron tayong mga intermediaries, at meron din pong government. So yan lang ho. We want to make the e-commerce roadmap very simple so that people can really understand that in order to have e-commerce growth, we need to build all of these systems, building blocks together para po maging talagang it really works like clockwork, so to speak. Next slide, please. I will, ito po ba, meron po tayong mga diagram because again, for us, and I speak, kailangan naming malaman at maintindihan yung negosyo at kung ano po yung struktura, right? So, nakita po namin, pinadrawing, talaga nag-drawing din po, tinulungan ho kami ng private sector dito na yung palang digital platforms, marami palang mga platforms yun, ano? So, andito I won't go, but this will certainly be something useful just to understand the entire ecosystem because when we know the ecosystem, we know the sub-ecosystems, we actually know who they are and who the stakeholders are that we can look at, and sila yung dapat po nating tulungan at hingan din ng tulong. So, nandyan din po ang payment. Ito pong payment, medyo nakakatuwa po talaga. Tayo ho, sanay ho tayo that, you go to the bank and then you pay, or you go to a store and you pay in cash. But things have radically changed. So it's not anymore just going to a bank and having to transfer your funds. Now you either have an e-wallet. So I hope that all of you here, we are now increasing in number. I hope that everyone here in the Zoom and those listening to Facebook have an e-wallet. Pampataas din ho yan ng ating ranking pag may bank account ka at may e-wallet ka. And then nandito meron ding mga over-the-counter, mga cash on delivery, mga payments. So this thing that you see, the diagram that you see, the infographic that you see in front of you is the payment system that we really try to understand so that we can see what the gaps are, where do we need to improve on, and how to make it more efficient. So aside from payment, andito po, I'd like to tell everyone that we tried as much as possible. And again, I'd like to thank ePeso naman po, for helping us out, draw all of these things because if we did it alone, medyo we needed mga call a friends po namin sila. And ang nangyari po dito, sabi lang natin is baka meron kaming naiwanan, but I believe that generally this will be the a very good representation of who are, when we say payment ecosystem, ito po sila. And then there could be more. There would be merchant acquirers, online payment aggregators, electronic wallets, payment networks, over-the-counter COD, ayan po yung mga True Money, mga bayad center. So, yan po. Again, this particular subsystem is really is regulated, monitored, assisted by the Bangko Sentral. Kaya naman po also the Bangko Sentral is a very strong partner. And even po, I'd like to do also a call. I hope that they're here, the Better Than Cash Alliance, because of our strong relationship, the networks have started to expand, and the BTCA together with the BSP has been helping us in the crafting of the roadmap as well. Now, logistics. Ito pong logistics ay isa pong priority ng ating secretary, ang mga logistics service providers. We came up, I believe, 2 years ago of what we call the Logistics Services Philippines. And tinututukan din po ito natin kasi tayo din po yung in charge ng supply chain and logistics management. And priority po ni Secman, lagi niyang sinasabi na dapat daw ang aming target talaga, we have to make sure to reduce logistics cost. Dito ho sa e-commerce, we noted that in particular, what can be the focus here would be the last mile. No, ito po yung mga last mile delivery services. That's why again, we have invited them here so that they will be able to sort of provide a reaction on the roadmap because sabi ko nga sa inyo, we talked to them and they really raised a lot of issues and concerns that we tried to address, or at least will work on together with both government and also private sector. Of course, I need not elaborate on government, only to focus that when we say e-commerce, we are basically again supporting or subscribing to the classification of Google with slight amendments Google calls it e-commerce, referring to goods. We're calling it internet retail, so it could be goods and services. Online travel, when you say online travel, this is the Department of Tourism. So digital media po, yan po yung mga Netflix, animation, gaming, ride hailing. Google already changed this to transport and food. And digital financial services, ito naman po yung sa Bangko Sentral. So insurance, not only digital payments. So marami pong government agencies that are involved, and we need to really define who they are, because they are critical either in terms of policy interventions or program development. So there. Ano ho ang nangyari, no? With all of the engagement, the consultative process, the understanding the ecosystem, we finally came up with what we call a strategic framework. So it's all about simplicity for us. So 3S is equals to S. It's actually speed, structure, and security equals to sales. Simple lang po. These are the characteristics of e-commerce. We have to make sure that it's fast, whether it's internet, whether it's the speed of addressing your complaints, whether it's the speed of logistics, whether it's the speed of access to other markets. That speed. And then security, ito po yung sinasabi, again, ni Setmo, na building trust. A lot of people don't really want to go to e-commerce simply because ayoko, baka mamaya makuha nila yung credit card details ko. Right? And then structure is about e-government. And sabi ko nga po, yung e-government, yung private sector investments, and then human capital. No? Yan ho, tulong-tulong po tayo dyan. Pag ho lahat yan ay ayos, may resulta po ito talagang increased sales sa inyong mga negosyo. And that's really what, at the end of the day, that's what we want. Now, we'd like to focus now on 2022. I am pleased to report, and it's my honor to report, that we crafted 20 strategies and 22 action agenda, which I'd like to now present to everyone here today, which this basically is a simple rendition of the e-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022. So it's my privilege. Again, it's a product of consultation. So our shared vision is that by 2030, e-commerce in the Philippines is plug and play, safe, reliable, easy, and efficient everywhere. For the Filipino, e-commerce and commerce are indistinguishable. In line with this vision, our mission is to ensure speed, enhance security, establish structure, and expand sales. To accomplish this mission, we need resources. We shall ensure their budgetary support is provided to fund e-commerce initiatives. With resources, we also need organization. Government shall form a strong e-commerce bureau that will champion the whole of government approach, institutional public-private sector partnership to boost e-commerce growth, and pursue an advanced knowledge management system that is responsive to government and business needs. With resources and organization in place, the following strategies shall be pursued. 1. Accelerate government efforts in creating a secure, reliable, efficient, and affordable network of ICT services. Initiate an e-commerce logistics infrastructure and investment convergence program. Speed up government initiatives across the e-commerce ecosystem. Pursue a future-ready, inclusive, and enabling regulatory environment. Promote cashless transactions and increase uptake of digital payments. Fast-track the resolution of complaints and actions against e-commerce fraud and IP data privacy violations. Scale up the digital transformation of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Support funding for e-commerce innovation and technology investments. Increase business-to-business e-commerce transactions. Advance cooperation on cross-border digital trade. Upskill and reskill Philippine talent to support e-commerce growth. And undertake a massive communication campaign across business and market segments under a unified e-commerce narrative. These strategies, when successfully pursued, will result in the availability of digitally skilled workers. We have more digitally enabled enterprises and empowered online consumers, further resulting to increased e-commerce contribution to the economy. Ito po yung ating mapa. But these 20 strategies are further broken down into 20 actionable items that will be relentlessly pursued. We have to note that this is not just a product of the Department of Trade. Ito po talagang e-commerce roadmap ay really that will be worked out by all relevant agencies of government that will be in support of the promotion of e-commerce. So ano-ano po yung 22 na actionable items? So hindi na po kami, ang maganda ho dito sa e-commerce roadmap is that we are building on what is already there. Because as I have mentioned, all of us have specific mandates and there are already sound plans that have been devised and developed by the agencies concerned. It's just a matter of us working together with these agencies and finding out where we are and making sure that it's implemented and hopefully accelerated. So, ano po yun? Number one in the actionable item, we will accelerate the implementation of the National Broadband Plan in coordination, of course, care of the Department of Information and Communication Technology. We will increase secure internet servers, develop an e-commerce logistics infrastructure and investments convergence program, modernize and transform the Philippine Postal Corporation into a competent partner and major player in the logistics sector. We will promote e-government, fast-track the implementation of the Philippine ID system, update customs policies and procedures to cover and facilitate e-commerce transactions, push for the adoption and implementation of the Internet Transactions Act, pursue an e-commerce policy agenda, create an enabling environment for the gig economy, together with BSP, implement the Digital Payments Transformation Roadmap, implement Train 1 provisions on e-invoicing, automate consumer and merchant protection and dispute resolutions, implement a cohesive full-scale SME digitalization program among government agencies nationwide. We will implement a Tayaan ang Pilipino initiative to promote Philippine local startups. We will promote exchange of goods and services between companies either through direct or marketplace model. We will enhance cross-border cooperation with key trading partners, develop a cadre of digital skill workers to support the growing e-commerce sector, develop and implement a Basta e-commerce Madali communication plan with the private sector, create the e-commerce bureau and support with resources and capacity building, create the e-commerce promotion council comprised of stakeholders from both the public and private sector, and modernize and develop the system of generating e-commerce related statistics and studies in order to be responsive to the needs of the stakeholders with the Philippine Statistical Authority. This, ladies and gentlemen, briefly encapsulates the strategies and the action agenda that will be implemented by your government in the next 2 years. Next slide. So now, with all of that in place now, nabanggit na po ito ni Secmon, so dadaanan ko na lang po ito. We now set our metrics and targets. You would remember earlier on that we said that we needed to revisit our targets, and that was one of the, I remember when I first came in as e-commerce lead, that the private sector did say government must revisit the targets. So we did. So yun pong nakikita ninyo na targets dyan, na metrics dyan, ay papalitan na po natin. Ito ho yung nasabi ni Secretary Mon. So ang number one po, yung greatest impact indicator po natin really is the contribution of e-commerce to the economy, and we'd like to increase that. If you look at based on the computations of our economists who are helping us. Ang sabi po, ang baseline po ngayon ay 599 billion pesos ang value po ng e-commerce. So ang gusto pong target natin is 1.2 trillion. Yan po, sabi ni Secmon. Ang share po ng GDP, nasabi po niya from 3.4 to magiging 5.5 by 2022. So we decided to go with availability of digitally skilled workers, and we are going to have to work with the DOLE, and I'd like to say hello again, special shout out to Asik Nikki, my kapatid. We are consulting with her, and we hope that we will do a job outlook survey po, DTI and DOLE, and the hiring success rate would be one proxy indicator. If another option is really to, sabi ni Asik Nikki, baka pwedeng isama din sa LFS survey with the PSE. Ang next po na medyo big, hairy, and audacious, but sabi Secmon, increase the number of e-commerce enterprises. Ang estimate po natin ngayon, based sa aming informal na pagtatanong sa mga platforms, umabot po ng 500,000. So this year, it's 750,000, but in 2022, we hope that we would increase the number of online sellers and e-commerce entrepreneurs by to a million. To a million. For online consumers, empowered online consumers, we opted to adopt the UNCTAD B2C kasi we would like to benchmark with other countries. So, meron pong UNCTAD B2C index that ranks 152 countries in terms of account ownership at a financial institution, how many individuals are using the internet, the postal reliability, and then, of course, the secured internet server. So, all of these components in the UNCTAD study, kaya nyo makikita na ito ho yung nandito sa ating mga actionable items. No? So, pagdating po ng postal reliability, we have to go with PhilPost at si PhilPost po yung makakasagot siya. So, ngayon ho, we are 89 out of 152 countries. That brings us to the bottom half. This year, sana maging upper half. Pero pagdating po ng 2022, ang gusto naging natin top 1/3. That means to say at least 50 out of 152. In terms of gross merchandise value, we will use the Google Temasek because they always come out with this every year. For 2020, the baseline is 7.5, but we are targeting at least 16 billion in 2022. So, yan po yung ating mga measures of plus. Ito po yung huli, which is a resolution rate. We realize that many of our complaints resolution agencies have various rates, mga resolution rates na kung saan metric po nila. In the case of DTI, it's called a consumer complaints resolution. In the case of PNP, it's crime solution efficiency. There's also a crime clearance efficiency rate. So we will have to try to put all of this together and then work with the respective agencies concerned on But in the meantime, isa lang po ang sasabihin talaga natin, dapat positive is better than last year. Okay? Next slide. So, I would like to take note that that entire thing, the entire roadmap, is not for DTI. So, alam po natin, di ba, sinasabi pa natin yung whole of government. When we say whole of government, is everyone on board. But ang sinasabi po natin ngayon is that yun pong ating nakikita ngayon ng mga networks na ito ay talagang lahat ng mga ahensya na nakikita natin na magkakadikit. So, yung pong po tayo, color-coded po ito, basta po blue, market access po ang mga pero meron ng mga dapat rainbow colors. Medyo pagpasensyahan ho ninyo kasi kailangan medyo aayusin pa ng konti. But I think you get the drift. Pag good digitalization, kitang-kita nyo naman napaka po yung DICT. So nandyan din po yung kailangan mag-digitalize din po ang ating mga ibang ahensya. Digitalization po si DILG kasi po yung mga LGU, mga business permits and licensing system. At yun naman pong mga pink, ito po ay nakita ninyo, logistics integration. So pero po yan, yung iba po ay doble-doble, patong-patong. But essentially, what we're saying is that it's a network. And we know what each of us has to do, but we need to put everyone together in sync through this e-commerce roadmap. So there, ito pong next slide po ay talagang nabanggit na po ni Secmon ito. So maybe I can just skip it only to say that this is the narrative that we want. Para ho makikita natin, nakita po natin kanina na yung number 12 dun sa core processes, it's really about massive scale up of information education campaign. We realize that the value of communicating will actually help solve many things, whether to clarify fake news or whether to inform people who do not really know about it, whether we want to make sure that people know their how to protect themselves from abusive merchants, and how to protect your privacy, and we need to explain to fellow workers in government the importance of facilitating business permits and licensing to make it easier for government. These are all messages that will all be further expounded through a communication plan. But nakikita ho ninyo kung where we're going and what the messages are. But we have to go back to you, private sector, on making really a cohesive, so that all of us can work together. The sector, the e-commerce sector, to help you, and also government as well, working together to promote this particular narrative. So at this point in time, I believe this is my last slide. It's the e-commerce Philippines roadmap is about maximizing the power of networks through technology and internet. We are very, very confident that there's really so much potential of e-commerce for us, because the Philippine economy and the Filipinos are really geared for economic global leadership due to our large, young, still growing population that are technology savvy and use the internet heaviest. Alam niyo po, we have only just begun to take advantage of e-commerce. We know that because our behaviors were forced na po, nakita po talaga natin the accelerated adoption of e-commerce. But COVID really disrupted traditional business models and may have slowed down the economy. But it forced faster and bigger adoption of e-commerce. And ito po, natikman na po natin kung paano yung e-commerce, at sinasabi na po natin na kahit na mawala na rin po yung pandemic, nakatikim na po tayo ng kadalian ng e-commerce. And it is really mentioned that there will be continued adoption. E-commerce will last, no? So with all the available resources, partners, enablers, e-government, we would like to have support for the transformation, and we want this transformation to be madali. It's not like pulling teeth. So pag gusto nyo with government, dapat madali lang. Pag kayo ay mag-onboard at kayo ay online merchant, madaling mag-onboard sa isang platform, madaling bumili, madaling magbenta. Everything should be madali. We will harness the power of the Filipinos' creative talent and entrepreneurial skill with funding for their innovative and disruptive e-commerce ideas. So, tayaan po natin ang ating Pilipino. In the future, everything is e-commerce. And e-commerce will now be known as easy commerce. So, yan po, nagtatapos po ang aming basta e-commerce madali. It's market access, digitalization, and logistics integration. So, alam po ninyo, marami pong nagte-text sa akin ngayon habang ako po ay nagpe-present. Nanghihingi po sila ng copy. So, pero bago ko po sabihin yon, gusto ko lang ho i-pinpoint sa inyo na yung pong madali, marami pong salamat sa naggumawa nito, Kelvin. I'd like to do a special shout out. May kwento po yan. Yung market access, syempre, bibili ka. So may shopping cart. Pero pag e-commerce, kailangan mo ng internet. Ngayon, pagka nag-decide ka na ikaw ay bibili, ngayon, pindutin mo na yung mobile phone mo, bibili ka na, naka-decide ka na. So ang next mo, digitalization, kailangan mo digital payment ka. So ayan na po yung credit card, nasa phone mo. So dapat bibili ka or either mobile wallet. Pero po, dapat secure. No? So inaasahan ho natin na pag tayo ay nag-e-commerce, protektado po yung ating data privacy, ay protektado din po na hindi ho tayo matatakot na kapag nag-brown out, ay naku na nagyayanig na ho tayo kasi baka mamaya naipit yung libo nating binili. And then finally po, yung logistics integration. Kasi pag nabili nyo na, i-deliver na sa inyo, sa inyong location. Yan po ang ibig sabihin ng madali na yan, may kwento. So, yun pong aking sasabihin sa inyo ngayon sa mga nanghihingi. Ito po, no, we decided, sabi ni Secmon, oh, wag nang kasi e-commerce tayo. So we should really be, hindi na po tayo magpe-paper. We have decided to launch today our portal. It's a web report. No, we are providing access to everyone, and I'd like to ask the secretariat to give the link to everyone here in Zoom. Pakita nyo lang, no? Pag gusto ninyo yung ang presentation, Mika, can you put it down? Da-download nyo lang po. Nakita nyo po yung may TV dyan. Da-download nyo lang po yan. Makikita po ninyo. Yan po yung ating e-commerce na roadmap. And then, pakita ko lang ho ito. Nag-enjoy po kami dito. If you want, the roadmap, ito pong angat nyo, may menu dyan. Meron po kayong homepage, introduction, e-commerce in the Philippines, about the roadmap, Madali 2022, tsaka yung DTI e-commerce. Pakita lang natin, for example, nabanggit ko sa inyo kanina na merong study on the digitalization of SMEs and the key informant interviews. We will give you access to that, and that will be in the portal. Tingnan mo yung yung about the roadmap. Pakita natin, Secmon, I think we have not shown you these photos to all our guests here. Ayan, pakita natin yung sa yung sa e-commerce. Hindi, yung natin, yung focus group. Ayan, I don't know if Mon Abrea is here, but ito po yung mga focus group natin na si Union Bank, nagbigay po na, ayan na po yung mga kwento. So those of you who attended, baka gusto nyo mag-reminisce at mag po ng picture. So there, you'll see everything in the roadmap, the details. What I have brought you is really just an outline, but there is really a document that will outline the details of the roadmap. I still have a minute to go, and I'd like to use this opportunity to give special thanks to, of course, my team who's been working so hard. But ito pong yung aking mga angels po na tumutulong ho sa atin. So Dr. Abola, Dr. Abola, thank you very much. Professor X Valles, thank you also for all of the creative thinking. Kelvin, thank you also. Kung nakikita ho ninyo, parang may nakikita ko ng mga nagustuhan yata nila, so this is a good indication. And then, but I'd like to reserve my last thanks, yung pong si Prof. Ronnie. Kasi when Secmon asked me to handle e-commerce and and I was promoted, ang una ko pong tinawagan kasi si Prof. Ronnie, natulungan mo naman ako sa mga work, and he did it. So nag-umpisa po kami dito sa e-commerce. But of course, he had to leave and to go and other projects. So but nakita ko po that he has been he's been generous with all of the ito po mga ideas na to ay marami din po talaga siyang tulong. So I'd like to give my final thanks, of course, to Secmon. So that's all, and I hope that if you need anything, the e-commerce office is here with you and will continue to work with you. There's more work to be done, and I hope that you will approve the plan so that we can start working on it tomorrow. Maraming pong salamat, Secmon, and everybody. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, ASEC Jean Pacheco. Basta e-commerce padali, market access, digitalization, logistics integration. We are now moving on to the next part of our program, the reactions from the public and the private sector. Let us all welcome from the public sector, Honorable Secretary Silvestre H. Bello III, the Department of Labor and Employment.
Si Alonso, no?
Good afternoon po, Secretary Bello.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa aking minamahal na partner, si Secretary Mon Lopez ng DTI,
Partner.
mga kasamahan ko sa e-commerce roadmap. Kasama na dyan, of course, yung favorite kong undersecretary ng DTI, si Ma'am Ruth.
Afternoon, sir.
Ganun. First, let me take pride in joining the Department of Trade and Industry in the public debut of the e-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022. Of course, this is made possible through the efforts of my ever reliable partner, DTI Secretary Mon Lopez. Mabuhay po kayo, Sec Mon.
Buhay po.
This roadmap is very timely with the acceleration growth of the digital economy amid. We are now looking forward to the time when we all no longer have to queue in the banks to withdraw deposit of money or wait in payment centers to get the much needed ayuda or even paying our bills. Not to mention doing online shopping, which is becoming a favorite pastime nowadays with quarantine restriction due to the pandemic. Kaya lang, kung minsan, Sekmon, mas mahal yung delivery fee kaysa doon sa binibili kong hamburger from UK Cuts. Anyway, we are already experiencing the convenience brought about by digitalization. In fact, in our implementation of Bayanihan 2 programs, we have adapted to e-commerce through the use of digital payment facilities and yung e-wallets. This roadmap is indeed a boost to e-commerce in the country. Its ripple effects will not only be for the consumers and retailers, but also to the whole e-commerce ecosystem. The programs identified in the roadmap provide a holistic approach for the growth and sustainability of e-commerce by ensuring availability of digitally skilled workers. This is among the outcomes that we would also like to achieve in the DTI Dole Testa National Employment Recovery Strategy or NEST 2021-2023, a sectoral plan of recharge PA Philippines for economic recovery. As we wait there for our way out of the crisis that we are now experiencing, more economic activities are encouraged to help us recover. We are indeed excited to see the growth of e-commerce in the country through this roadmap, and we look forward to the jobs that it will generate for our people. Mga minamahal kong kasamahan sa e-commerce roadmap, let us, however, ensure that workers in the e-commerce continue to enjoy social protection through enabling policies and programs of the various agencies involved in the roadmap. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Partner,
Hey,
good afternoon.
thank you, partner. Buhay po kayo.
Hi, partner.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Bello. Now let us all welcome from the private sector, our representative from the digital platforms, Mr. Ray Alimorong, CEO of Lazada Philippines. Good afternoon, Mr. Ray.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ray.
Yes. Good afternoon, Ray.
Good afternoon, Sekmon. So As the first reactor, now I want to greet again all the key stakeholders, DTI Sec Lopez, Yusek Castelo, Yusek Bismonte, of course, e-commerce lead Asec Pacheco, Dole Sec Belio, Philpost Chairman Fulgencio, also IPOFIL Director General Barba, PICT Director Rubis Tondo, BSP Director Plabasan, BOC Deputy Commissioner Dibuco, TESTA Deputy Director Urdaneta, BIR Deputy Commissioner David, representatives from the government and private sector. A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much to the DTI for inviting Lazada to this launch of the updated e-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022 and for sharing very excellent presentations. And I want to congratulate the DTI as well for the revision and streamlining of the roadmap to 22 agenda items. I know there are hundreds, thousands of things we can do in e-commerce, but it's important. I really salute the streamlining to these focus areas, as well as the timely updating of the roadmap, especially during these very challenging times. As you mentioned earlier, Sekmon, Lazada has been very actively engaged with DTI across a range of efforts, and we thank the DTI for constantly seeking our input and participation in the updating of the roadmap. Since we started operations in 2012, Lazada, when e-commerce was still in its infancy, Lazada has invested very heavily in the growth of the internet economy. And we firmly believe that MSMEs are the backbone of a vibrant and growing internet economy. Lazada's overall mission is actually to accelerate progress in Southeast Asia through commerce and technology. And our vision is to serve millions of consumers, create millions of jobs, and power real profitable MSMEs by 2030. And we feel that this vision is fully aligned with the goal of the e-commerce Philippines roadmap to increase contribution of e-commerce to the economy by increasing the number of online consumers, the number of digitally skilled workers, and the number of digitally enabled enterprises. Today, millions of Filipinos buy on the Lazada platform from over 100,000 MSMEs. And this activity translates into livelihood and employment for hundreds of thousands across the e-commerce ecosystem. Mga Asik Pacheco was talking about motorcycle riders, truck drivers, BPO agents, data analysts, payment processors, and of course, entrepreneurs and the staff of sellers. Achieving the goals of this roadmap will translate into millions of Filipinos earning their livelihood by virtue of e-commerce. So together with the government and the private sector, we are optimistic that we can attain the goals of this roadmap. The Philippines' internet economy is forecasted to grow 30% annually until 2025, higher than our Southeast Asian neighbors. But we are confident that with this roadmap in place, especially with the focus on ease of doing business, enabling logistics and internet infrastructure, and a balanced regulatory environment, we expect this 30% growth to be much higher. In closing, we'd like to say that we believe that e-commerce can be a catalyst for change and opportunities. We believe that e-commerce empowers consumers to easily find what they're looking for at the best prices. And we also believe that e-commerce empowers MSMEs to self-determine and compete on a level playing field with big businesses. We are one with the DTI and other stakeholders here in ensuring that e-commerce should be easy commerce, or simply put, madali. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ray. Now let us all welcome from the private sector our representative from the logistics side, Ms. Mia I. Bulatao, President and COO of QuadX. Good afternoon, Ms. Mia.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you
Good
see me
afternoon.
now?
Ano yung
Alright. Hello, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Yes, hello, good afternoon. I'd like to thank you first for inviting QuadX. We're pleased to note that we'll give our reaction as well. We're pleased to note that the DTI, upon reading the whole roadmap, considered several issues that we raised during the year-long consultation, which we acknowledge now appears either as one of the 20 strategies or outcomes or one of the 22 action agenda of the e-commerce Philippines 2022 roadmap. Specifically, these are one, creating an enabling environment for the gig economy. QuadX, on numerous occasions during the road mapping exercise, has highlighted the need to address the plight of gig workers. This is a fast growing segment that enables livelihood for a lot of Filipinos. Given its growth and huge potential to generate livelihood, we seek government support for them by recognizing that standards and policies to qualify to be a gig worker need to be created and ensuring a non-restrictive and easy registration and application requirements and processes. Could also contribute to improving unemployment, as Ray has mentioned earlier, and quality of life. Stakeholders during the road mapping sessions have raised issues on unclear regulatory requirements, penalties, and taxation, which restricts the onboarding for most gig workers. QuadX acknowledges and is pleased to note, thank you, that these concerns were made part of the program. Next, the promotion of e-government. Like many of our colleagues in this private sector, we echo the need for government to make registration processes easier and to ramp up its automation initiatives. Thus, we are extremely pleased that promoting e-government is a stated strategy in the roadmap and that our government is committed to accelerate its execution in the plan's endeavor to rationalize its requirements and promote online end-to-end issuance of permits and licenses. On crafting a policy on data accessibility and API integrations of government institutions to promote engagement and business innovations, Mr. Secretary. I remember asking Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco to allow QuadX access to the business name registration system to enable two things. One, easier access and processing of business registration directly from our platform. And second, automated confirmation of legitimate existence of business entities para po siguradahan walang fraud. I certainly hope that this action agenda will make this happen. On developing a cadre digital skill worker to support the growing e-commerce sector, we fully support this strategy at QuadX to promote continuous innovation. We need more technologically and digitally skilled workers to help us not just cope with increasing demand for our services, but more importantly, to keep pioneering e-commerce solutions. We hope that the DTI, through its e-commerce office, will continue to promote upskilling and reskilling of workers and MSMEs. With a short life cycle of new technology, we continuous learning and new skill sets are needed in order to adapt. As part of the logistics services sector, principally, as mentioned by ASIC Jean earlier, the last mile delivery service, we also appreciate the government's efforts to address problems in logistics. We concur with DTI on many of the roadmap strategies. Develop an e-commerce logistics infrastructure and investment convergence program. As a company that takes pride in delivering e-fulfillment services, we appreciate the need for greater private sector investments in logistics, including related systems, software upgrades, improved operations, customer experience. Next, we are also particularly excited to support the modernization and transformation of the Philippine Postal Corporation into a competent partner and major player in the e-commerce fulfillment sphere. I remember attending the one and the only regional roadshow, I believe in Baguio, tama ho ba yun? Where the issue of internet connection and role of the Philippine Postal was discussed. Indeed, we can work with our postal office to maximize resources. Quadex developed and have been using our own 7-character zip code system that we call Xcode. This was actually adopted from the Philippine Standard Geographic Code, only made more granular and optimized for logistics. We commit, if our PhilPost chair would like it, to share this with PhilPost and to enable them with a more granularized identification of addresses that will help make delivery services faster and more efficient. Further, we are committing our support to this action plan by integrating with the PhilPost to be our fulfillment partner in selected provincial areas, particularly in remote and isolated communities mentioned in the plan. At the start of the pandemic, Quadex took an active part in DTI's Bayanihan effort to help MSMEs cope with the pandemic by shifting from offline to online. We participated in the DTI Reboot program by providing training programs and special onboarding rates for MSMEs. There were numerous inquiries which show that an advocacy and a sustained information campaign are needed. Thus, we realize that so much more needs to be done and that a cohesive, full scale MSME digitalization program among our government agencies nationwide is exactly what needs to be pursued. You can count on QuadX to continue providing our government the support it needs to help micro, small, and medium enterprises. Notable in the plan as well, and thus deserving of a special call out, is the one where MSMEs are encouraged to avail of logistics services. We appreciate this because, one, this is our business. We are here to help MSMEs make their operations more efficient and scalable so they can focus on developing their products and growing their sales. In closing, and to drive this back to the realities of today, well, none of us were prepared for a pandemic. We learned that unpreparedness can never be complemented by paranoia and a mindset of control. That this combination must be replaced with what I would call a responsible growth mindset. As we have seen during the early days of the lockdown, panic went on overdrive, and in fact, it drove people opposite the direction of their homes and went into supermarkets and drugstores, seeking survival, yet ironically getting closer to risk factors. We learned that creating policies that are far, far removed from the realities of what's happening on the ground only causes further confusion and chaotic execution. Needless to say, theoretical applications does not realistically translate to it being carried out properly, much less flawlessly. And so we specifically applaud the formation of a strong e-commerce bureau and its thrust to partner with us, the private sector, to boost the growth of e-commerce in the Philippines. And so we in QuadX, as I am sure the rest of the e-commerce community here today, are truly pleased and honored to have been to, and we look forward to collaborating with DTI in policy development and execution, particularly in the action points I have mentioned earlier. One, to champion the rights of our gig workers. Second, strategic partnership with the Philippine Postal Corporation. Third, to boost entrepreneurship and create jobs through e-commerce. And lastly, a relentless pursuit in providing a safe, secure, and highly robust e-commerce ecosystem of sellers, buyers, and e-fulfillment providers. Opo, sinama ko yung sarili namin, including ourselves, as we seek government support as well to protect our interests. On behalf of QuadX, I would like to thank the e-commerce office, DTI, and Secretary Mon for the opportunity to address this body today. Salamat po.
Salamat po, Miss Mia,
Thank you
partner.
po.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Mia. And now let us welcome from the public sector, representing Commissioner Ray Leonardo Guerrero, we have Deputy Commissioner Edward James D. Buco of the Bureau of Customs. Good afternoon po, DEPCOM.
Good afternoon, and
Go.
thank you, Secretary Mon, Secretary Perio, and Undersecretary Ruth, ASEC Jean, DG Barba, and all other officials of the government present, and to our stakeholders from the private sector. Good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. So, Commissioner Guerrero is sending his regrets for being not able to attend this momentous event due to previous commitments. Bisita po kasi namin ngayong araw si Secretary ng DEX, Briones, and Secretary of Finance Dominguez po. So congratulations to the DTI for the launching of the e-commerce roadmap. So the task of the Bureau of Customs under agenda number 7 of the roadmap is to update the BOC guidelines on small parcels and the national single window. So streamlining processes through the national single window framework is an effort that will contribute to ease of doing business as this cuts down on red tape and lessens the time that businesses will spend on customs regulations. The single window was also mentioned in the Philippine e-commerce roadmap 2016 to 2020, and we will continue to improve this service to onboard more government agencies onto the system. Actually, this is included in our 10 priority programs for 2021. The use of the National Single Window along with the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act will also ease apprehensions of businesses who are worried about the regulatory requirements for importing goods to sell. I agree with the need for e-government services, especially for agencies that offer frontline services. We note the points for improvement when it comes to issuing government regulations and licenses, and the National Single Window is one good example of an e-government initiative. Opening of the BOC Online Customer Care Portal is another good example, as this provides the public with a quick way to send complaints and concerns to the Bureau. On cross-border e-commerce, so as repeatedly said this afternoon by Secmon and Sec Jing, part of promoting cross-border commerce is about gaining the confidence of our constituents and businesses. As mentioned earlier, the online customer care portal, as well as an additional on-site customer care centers, will assure the public that the Bureau of Customs is approachable, easy to deal with, and responsive to the needs of the Filipinos. Vigilance against the entry of smuggled and counterfeit goods also benefits the e-commerce industry as it levels the playing field for MSMEs who run their businesses legitimately. With regard to counterfeit goods in particular, preventing these from flourishing in the country will both internationally and locally. Doing so will also lessen instances of consumers being scammed into buying counterfeit goods being advertised as genuine products. This increased efficiency in service will lead to less apprehensions about regulation and more e-commerce businesses importing goods, especially for B2B transactions. BOC in cooperation with DTI can continue promoting strategic trade and cross-border e-commerce as a means of creating a productive regulatory environment for businesses and stakeholders. And with respect to cross-border e-commerce, we had a meeting yesterday with the World Customs Organization and the World Bank in a virtual meeting. And both WCO and the World Bank committed to assist the Philippine Bureau of Customs in drafting customs clearance policies and standards that is aligned with the best practices in other customs administrations. So again, we would like to congratulate the DTI for launching this e-commerce platform. Thank you at magandang hapon po.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, DepCom. And now, let's welcome from the private sector our representative from the online retailers, Director Maria Alegria Sibal Limhoco, Chair and Director of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Vice Chairman of the Philippine Retailers Association. Good afternoon po, Director.
Good afternoon to our dear Secretary Ramon Lopez, to USEC Boy Bismonte, USEC Ruth Castello, ASEC Jean Pacheco, who has really been very active regarding this, to DG Barba, to all my fellow reactors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A pleasant good afternoon to you all. First, let me thank you for inviting me to the launching of the E-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to be part of this momentous event. A big congratulations to DTI, especially my partner Secmon, ASEC Jean Pacheco, for your leadership in crafting this roadmap. Truly, the 2022 e-commerce roadmap is a testament of the productive partnership of the public and private sector. The launch of the e-commerce roadmap is also very timely and significant. As we all know, the pandemic has accelerated the e-commerce growth in our country, but has also bared some of our deficiencies. This roadmap, which outlines government, private sector strategies to advance the e-commerce in the country, once implemented, will help us fully maximize the growth prospects for digital economy. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Philippine Franchise Association, and the Philippine Retailers Association, which I represent, fully support this roadmap and commit our cooperation to pursue our shared vision of promoting e-commerce in the country. In fact, as early as August last year, we have already started a dialogue among stakeholders on how we can promote cashless transactions and increase uptake of digital payments among our members, and we hope to continue with this initiative in partnership with the Office of ASEC Gen. We at PCCI have also our own initiatives that complement the strategies outlined in the roadmap. This include the launching of an e-commerce platform carrying the brand Shop All during our last Philippine Business Conference. The platform will be operated by the Philippine Business Center, and it will allow members of PCCI and the 124 chapters all over the Philippines to sell their products and services online. Then also, just last week, we had a soft launch of the PCCI Innovation Center, similar to, anyway, I hope you can visit it. The Innovation Center is envisioned to serve as a central hub to facilitate knowledge exchange among the tech-savvy startups and established businesses with the support of Huawei. The center will provide mentorship programs in areas such as artificial intelligence, AI, robotics, coding, BI data analytics, Internet of Things, among others. This is a realization of the personal advocacy of our President, Ambassador Benedicto V. Ubico, who from the start of his term has advocated for innovation for business. It is housed in the Double Dragon Meridian Plaza at Bay Area in Pasay City. We hope you will have the chance to visit this world-class facility. In the area of consumer merchant protection and dispute resolutions, PCCI also has its own National Mediation Center, which offers an alternative mechanism to resolve business conflicts through mediation. MCM, in partnership with the Conflict Resolution or CORE Group, is now discussing strategies to provide an e-mediation services for both business and consumer alike. And of course, to continue to dialogue with our members and stakeholders to discuss pressing concerns relating to propagation of e-commerce in the country and identify solutions that can be implemented both by government and private sector. In fact, the PFA, the PRA are calling on the local government units to be more considerate to the businesses affected by the pandemic, particularly on calculating the payments of business permit renewals. Would you believe they want us to give our 2019 sales, but our 2020 sales is so poor and they would like us to pay based on 2020. So issues such as this should also be considered in the roadmap to help our SME recover and flourish. In closing, let me again reiterate our support to the realization of the e-commerce program. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you, Partner Bing.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po, Director Bing. And now, let us all welcome from the public sector, representing Director General Isidro S. La Peña. We have Deputy Director General Rosana Urdaneta from the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, of course, to our boss, DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez.
Hello, DDG.
Yes, sir. To the DOLE Secretary, our Chair of the Board, Silvestre Bello. To the DTI Assistant Secretary, the proponent of the e-commerce, Secretary Mary Jean Pacheco, DTI USEC Ireneo Vismonte, DTI Undersecretary Ruth Castello, IFOPIL DG Barba, of course the PCCI Chair, Ms. Maria Alegria Limhoco, to Lazada Philippine CMO, Mr. Ray Alimorong, to the Quadex President and COO, Ms. Mia Bulatao. On behalf of Secretary Isidro S. La Peña and the entire TESDA community, allow me to extend our warmest congratulations to Secretary Lopez and the Department of Trade and Industry for launching the E-Commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022. This is a game-changing input to our collective effort in further digitalizing the Philippine economy, particularly in the light of recent challenges brought about by the pandemic. The roadmap calls for the development of a pool of digital skilled workers, which are needed to operationalize the entire e-commerce ecosystem. This is in line and in sync with TESDA's policies and strategic thoughts, such as the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan of 2018 to 2022, and the Oplan TESDA Abot Lahat, pivot towards a new normal to upskill and reskill Filipinos and produce a ready supply of resilient, in-demand, and future-ready Filipino workforce. It is our firm belief that upskilling and reskilling Filipinos is an important component in helping our economy bounce back from the effects of the pandemic. Initially, we believe that there are already points of convergence where existing TESDA's programs contribute to attain this goal, such as through our TVET Philippine 4.0 framework, which is our response to the fourth industrial revolution and other digital skills-related challenges, including that of e-commerce. First also is through our TESDA online program, or TOP, garnering more than 1 million new registered users from March to December 2020 alone. The TOP can be of great use in imparting digital skills and other e-commerce related competencies to the Filipino people. Currently, there are TOP courses that are directly or indirectly linked to e-commerce skills, such as 21st century skills courses, ICT courses on technopreneurship. We look forward to working with DTI and other government and business sector partners to promote digital online program in the future. Help us populate the TESDA online program. Second, as part of our competency standards and curriculum development process, We are incorporating 21st century skills and STEM skills in our training programs, as well as moving towards the development of stackable competencies in order to quickly adjust and respond our TVET programs to be in tune with the skills demands of industries and the digital economy. The third and final point is through the capacity building of MSMEs. Together with and as an attached agency under DTI, TESDA believes that MSMEs play a big role in our vision of a truly integrated e-commerce ecosystem as they form part of the bulk of total enterprises in the country. Putting focus to MSMEs in TESDA's policy and programs through training subsidies and scholarships is therefore a priority for us. Again, on behalf of Secretary La Peña and the entire TESDA family and community, we give our full support and commitment to ensure the success of the e-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022. We shall continue working closely with DTI and other stakeholders to ensure TESDA's plans, programs, and services contribute to the attainment of the strategies set forth in the roadmap. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of us, and let us all keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you, DDG.
Maraming salamat po, DDG Rose. And now let us welcome from the public sector, representing Commissioner Cesar R. Dulay, we have Deputy Commissioner Lani C. David from the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Good afternoon po, DEPCOM.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. To Secretary Mon Lopez, for Secretary Sylvester Bello, to my fellow speakers and reactors from public and private sectors, to other government officials and workers here present, and of course to the more than 360 participants. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here with you virtually, and I'm excited to see and join everyone online. Our Commissioner Cesar Dulay, is grateful that the BIR has been given this opportunity to share our thoughts on the e-commerce roadmap. He regrets that he cannot join us this afternoon, but he has given me the privilege of conveying his reactions. In behalf of our Commissioner and the BIR, I would like to congratulate Sec Mon Lopez and the DTI family for the launch of the roadmap. Certainly, this is another milestone in the DTI's long history of service. Again, Sec Mon, congratulations. And
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And again, congratulations and more power to you. Now, let me also commend the organizer of this event for taking extra effort to put together a meeting like this, despite the current limitations brought by the pandemic. Few people may have noticed it, but DTI has been a long-time partner of the BIR in the very challenging field of governance. And we are happy to join DTI in its efforts to promote ease of doing business. We are also appreciative of the DTI's simple but practical 4S framework: speed, structure, and security equals to sales. We are pleased to support the DTI's tagline, basta e-commerce, madali. Hindi ko makakalimutan yan. Basta e-commerce, madali. Because we believe that e-commerce is truly fast, easy, and convenient, no? And if sales is madali, according to SecMon, and I agree, fully agree, there will be more jobs, more opportunities for all of us, and of course, more economic activities that will ultimately result in higher revenues for the government in terms of taxes and regulatory fees. So today we have come together to mark the launching of the DTI's e-commerce roadmap. The roadmap is a formidable undertaking with 20 strategies and 22-point action agenda, and the BIR is pleased to express its full support for these strategies. Now, in the interest of time, allow me to just focus on some of the 22 action agenda related to the BIR. First, in the matter of promoting e-government, the BIR is aware of the importance of accelerating the development and enhancement of IT infra in all government agencies. Currently, the BIR is collaborating with the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, on the Central Business Portal, and this was mentioned earlier by SecMon. It is an online system to register with SEC, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and LGU. Right now, we have LGU QC. And as mentioned by SecMon yesterday, we just launched the Central Business Portal. So it's now live, and taxpayers, the people may already use the portal. Now, aside from that portal, the BIR is also expanding its range of e-services available to the public. They are just too many to mention right now, no? And we have very limited time. But you can access these e-services through the BIR website. Second, with regard to the implementation of the BSP's Digital Payments Transformation Roadmap, I am pleased to note that the BIR likewise supports that move. In fact, since 2016, the BIR has introduced 6 new payment platforms. Take note, 6 payment platforms since 2016. And we have GCash, of course, Paymaya, PesoNet, the e-payment facilities of Land Bank, the Development Bank of the Philippines, and the Union Bank. These new payment channels resulted in the increase of electronic payment transactions from 1.9 million in 2015 to 4.01 million in 2020. Take note, the count has more than doubled since 2015. Third, on the issue of creating an enabling environment for the gig economy, we have noted the concerns of last mile delivery services and the plight of the riders, and we recognize the need to define and clarify tax policies on this matter, particularly with regard to the questions on whether riders should be treated as sole proprietors and what taxes they should pay. Fourth, on the implementation of the training provisions on e-invoicing or e-receipting, I am happy to inform you that the e-invoicing system is currently being developed with the help of the Korean International Cooperation Agency, and the BIR is set to implement the e-invoice system to pilot taxpayers from the large taxpayer service on the last quarter of this year. Now, an effective communications campaign is essentially or especially crucial to the success of any undertaking by the government. So the BIR is happy to lend its support, full support to the DTI's communication campaign across business and market segments to provide clarity on the advantages of e-commerce for the national economy. Last year had been a challenging one for everyone. Nonetheless, difficulties can also be opportunities for growth and innovation. And this is especially true given the dramatic growth of e-commerce in our country amidst the pandemic. In this light, the vision of the DTI's e-commerce roadmap is both fitting and relevant. For ahead of us lies a future where commerce and e-commerce may yet prove to be indistinguishable, if not one and the same. As mentioned by Sec Jean earlier, e-commerce has a lot of potentials for all of us, and I fully agree to that. Basta e-commerce, everything will be madali. So e-commerce, madali yon. So together, let us prepare for the future whose avenues e-commerce has opened to us, and contribute the strengths of our agencies to the government's effort to bring our country further onward into the 21st century. Again, SecMon, DTI, congratulations. Thank you. Salamat po at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Salamat
Maraming
po,
salamat po.
Secom. Salamat.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
And now, for an extra after, let us welcome from the public sector, Chairman Norman N. Fulgencio of the Philippine Postal Corporation. Good afternoon po, Chairman.
Hindi private sector yun, gobyerno yun.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez.
Good afternoon.
Saan na tayo? Good afternoon po sa ating lahat. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez, Undersecretary Ireneo Vismonte, Undersecretary Ruth Castelo, Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco, Secretary Silvestre Bello, Lazada President Mr. Ray Alimorong, WADEX President CEO Mia Bulataw, BOC DEPCOM James Dibuco, PCCI Chair and Director Bing Limoco, TESTA Deputy Director General Rose Urdaneta, BIR DEPCOM Lani David, BSP Director Melchor Labasan, DIC Director Leo Orbistondo, and Pay Maya Founder and CEO Orlando Vea. As one of the reactors to today's presentation and launching of the E-commerce Philippines Roadmap 2022, Philippine Postal Corporation has focused on the 4 areas of discussion which the Department of Trade and Industry requested. First is the Postal Reliability Index, possible plans of PhilPost to offer services to online businesses, and PhilPost program that can help push the goal of the e-commerce 2022 roadmap. First, on the subject of Postal Reliability Index, according to the World Bank Logistics Performance Index from 2013 to 2018, the aggregate LPI rank of the Philippines was 64 out of 167 countries, with an LPI score of 2.91. Considering the 6 dimensions: performance ranking in customs, infrastructure, international shipments, logistics competence, track and trace, and timelessness. Germany being ranked number 1 with LPI score of 4.20. On the other hand, in the Universal Postal Union Development Index, which is a comparative indicator of postal development around the world, in 2019, the Philippines ranked 72 with a score of 37.93. And in 2020, the Philippines ranked 78 with a score of 35.89. Switzerland being ranked number 1 with a perfect score of 100. Consequently, PhilPost is addressing the President's call for ease of doing business and increase postal reliability by going digital with the launch in the second quarter of 2021. So within the year po, ang ating postal will be fully digitalized na. And part of the digitalization that we have done, first is the financial counter system, the human resource and the payroll system, the corporate and financial management and information system, and the mail management system. Okay, this will be all integrated into a PhilPost mobile application. So soon we will be having a integrated platform, okay, that would access all the services, payments, and remittances. Okay. So the next question was, what are the plans of PhilPost to offer services to online businesses? Among the PhilPost core business is the domestic express mail service, which is being availed by the micro, small, and medium enterprises, such as the Southern Luzon area for the delivery of buri mats, baskets from Sorsogon, delicacies and handicrafts from Bicol region, and so forth. The corporation expands its availability to reach through the implementation of LGU-operated postal stations, making readily available the services of PhilPost to online business to reach every household. And finally, what are the possible programs of PhilPost that can help push the goal of e-commerce 2022 roadmap? Efficiency by going digital, to continuously update and improve our system and online presence to provide better public service, interconnecting all postal office nationwide. And B, the maximization and utilization of the global network of PhilPost with the engagement of existing global network through the Universal Postal Union and the postal administrations. PhilPost is the partner of all postal administration in the world, has the widest domestic network of 9 postal areas with almost a post office in every local government unit, making its service available to all. Next is the development of businesses to address the changing market needs and trends, development of all postal spaces to warehouses to accommodate micro, small, and medium enterprise. Lastly, partnership in both government and public sector to strengthen the cooperation and network among stakeholders by establishing guidelines and frameworks in standardizing business operations and processes, business opportunities, such as being an arm of the government for logistics through the Department of Trade and Industry e-commerce and Department of Trade and Industry Competitiveness Bureau. In its role in logistics integration, thank you to the Department of Trade and Industry for making PhilPost one of the pieces of the puzzle to complete the e-commerce landscape of the Philippines. Um, Marami pong salamat at Secretary Lopez. Finally po, ang ating postal ay magiging digitalized na. At ito'y mangyayari sa panahon po ng ating Presidente Duterte. And we are encouraging, okay, the private sectors as well to let us help each other and see what we can do all together to better serve the public. So yun lamang po at marami pong salamat.
Marami pong salamat, Chairman Fulgencio. Now, let us all welcome from the public sector, representing BSP Governor Benjamin E. Diokno, we have Director Melchor Plabasan of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Good afternoon po, Director.
Hi, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, kay Secretary Mon, kay Sec Jean, and to all our friends from DTI, and of course all the key stakeholders of this e-commerce Philippines 22 roadmap. Magandang hapon po. And as similarly echoed by the other reactors, and as the country continues to move forward amid the constraints brought about by this pandemic, all of us have been witnesses to the significant role of e-commerce, not just to the economy, but even from the simple vantage point of having continuing access to our basic needs. To say that our lives have transformed, if not forced to adapt to the routines that we are not accustomed to, is actually an understatement. As such, the BSP could not be more in agreement to the such a simple but precisely what every Juan de la Cruz needs and deserves right now. We all need a good break, an easy win. We all need a pleasant experience to boost our collective morale. E-commerce plan of actions, no matter how carefully thought of and designed, may end up or not should our countrymen find it as a burdensome undertaking. Thus, the BSP is one with the DTI and all the stakeholders in committing to ensure that the roadmap will be easily adhered to and the objectives will be met. We at the BSP recognize the critical role of tighter collaboration, payments digitalization, and financial inclusion for e-commerce. Definitely, DTI can bank on us that we will maintain our proactive stance to ensure that the regulatory framework promoting these areas are in place, robust, yet enabling to all players. And of course, the national retail payment system, combined with our open stance towards digitalization and removing friction for payment account creation, are of course a testament to our commitment. And of course, we have consciously ensured that every step we take will end up bringing our services closer to our countrymen. As mentioned by ASEC Jean a while ago, our own digital payments transformation roadmap perfectly complements the e-commerce roadmap, given the two strategic outcomes that we wish to achieve. Of course, first is the strengthened customer preference for digital payments, with the goal of converting at least 50% of total volume of retail payments into digital form. Second is the availability of more innovative and responsive digital financial products and services. The trends we observed in the past year have been truly encouraging and provide confidence to the notion that, of course, Filipinos are naturally gravitated towards digital services, provided the enabling environment is in place. However, we remain cognizant that much work still must be done. What gives us comfort, though, is knowing that DTI and all the stakeholders here are committed to a single goal: making e-commerce easy. So again, the BSP joins everyone in proclaiming basta e-commerce madali. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang hapon po. Maraming salamat po, Director Flabasan.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much. To Secretary Ramon Lopez of DTI, good afternoon, sir. All officers of DTI, Secretary Silvestre Bilio of DOLE, other government officials, my co-reactors, stakeholders, good afternoon. In behalf of the DICT and in my own views of this e-commerce roadmap, I believe this is the realization also of our digital Philippines roadmap. And this is also in line with our Industry 4.0 concept. And this is part of the implementation of our ease of doing business law. And I believe this is very beneficial to the merchants and buyers. And it will also help the private sectors, especially our MSMEs. It will also help protecting our online sellers and buyers. And this is very timely, especially with the situation of this pandemic, as we call this our new normal. It will also help the growing industry of online digital workers or freelancers. And it will also improve the supply chain and the delivery system of goods and services. This will also provide a good framework for doing business in the country, especially those who wants to go digital. And I believe, and even with the ICT, it will also provide good contribution to our economy and to our GDP. We at the ICT welcome this endeavor, and we are happy to partner with DTI and other stakeholders to grow in this innovation for the Philippine people. Congratulations to DTI and the rest. Mabuhay ang Pilipino. Good afternoon.
Maraming salamat po, Director. Good afternoon. Thank you po. And last but not the least, we have let us welcome from the private sector our representative for digital payments, Mr. Orlando Vea, founder and CEO of Voyager Innovations and Paymaya Philippines. Good afternoon, Mr. Vea.
Sorry.
Sorry po.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.
Magandang hapon, Doy.
Hi. And congratulations, Secretary Mon Lopez, for this great initiative. The ICT Director Leo Orbistondo, DOLE Secretary Silvestre Bello, DSP Director Mel Plabazan, Bureau of Customs Deputy Commissioner James Dibuco, BIR Deputy Commissioner Lani David, Philippine Postal Corporation Chairman Norman Fulgencio, TESDA DDG Rose Urdaneta, DTI officers, USEC Bismonte, USEC Castello, PSA USEC Claire Mapa, of course, DTI Assistant Secretary Jean Pacheco, who's leading and pushing growth of e-commerce in the country. And our private stakeholders, Rhea Limurung, Ding Limhoko, and Mia Bulatao. And to our esteemed stakeholders of the e-commerce ecosystem and friends from the media. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Congratulations to the DTI again, led by SecMon with USEC Jean for the launch of the Philippine E-Commerce Roadmap 2020. We at Paymaya are honored to represent payment enablers in the e-commerce ecosystem. This is very timely and much needed as the whole country accelerates its digital transformation. Last year, we saw how e-commerce and digital payments adoption surged in a big way. Indeed, we expect e-commerce and digital payments to be the winning duo of the digital economy, not just right now, but beyond COVID. So I saw in DTI's updated e-commerce roadmap that the baseline GMV or gross value merchandise in 2020 for e-commerce was around 375 billion pesos. So it really has grown tremendously last year. Our estimates now, based on industry sources such as Google, Temasek, Visa, and Euromonitor, is that out of this 375 billion e-commerce GMV last year, cashless is close to breaching 50%, if it hasn't. So with this shift, as this continues, COD now probably should stand for cashless order and delivery rather than cash on delivery. We know this as for 2020 alone, we at Paymaya processed around 95 billion pesos of transactions for online merchants. That represents millions of Filipinos shopping, ordering food, purchasing goods, all online, and thousands of sellers, merchants, as well as delivery and logistics personnel. And as we chart the path towards recovery from the pandemic, we will see a surge in e-commerce. Call it revenge shopping, revenge travel after COVID-19. The e-commerce industry will keep growing and evolving, and digital payments will be there in tandem. At Paymaya, we have always believed that it should be easy for any consumer to pay online, as well as for any merchant to get paid online. With the launch of the updated e-commerce Philippines roadmap, which banners the message that e-commerce should be easy or madali in Filipino, we see brighter prospects for the growth of the Philippine e-commerce industry. And that is why we thank and congratulate the DTI for all its initiatives to prop up the economic sector, the e-commerce sector, to be towards economic global leadership.
So on behalf of the whole PayMaya team, we affirm our staunch support to the DTI in this endeavor to make participation of all businesses to e-commerce easy or madali. First, we commit to making it convenient for every Filipino to pay online at any e-commerce merchant through our largest open-loop wallet, PayMaya. We are doing this by making it easy to open a financial account which can be used not just at PayMaya merchants but also at any Visa or MasterCard e-commerce merchant. We will also continue to make it easy for any e-commerce merchant to accept payments from any card, any app, and soon any QR too. We also commit to enable even the underserved and the unconnected to be able to access e-commerce through our 40,000 Smart Padala and PayMaya Negosyo agents. For the DTI and its DTI itself and its attached agencies, we will continue to work with you to promote e-commerce and digital payments so we can grow and enable our country's MSME base. I understand there's been a surge in registrations of new businesses. All of this should be enabled with digital payments as well as e-commerce tools. Moreover, we will further expand the digital payments of the DTI for the benefit of all its constituents. We're doing this also for other national government agencies and local governments. To date, we have enabled over 60 government units with inclusive payment solutions that can accept any card as well as PayMaya. These include the SSS, Pag-ibig, DTI, BIR, DFA, PRC, PIESA, CIAT, among others. So they can offer safe and seamless payment options to the public. We are 100% behind the government's push to have enabling policies that can accelerate and strengthen the country's digital transformation and grow e-commerce and digital. We support DTI's call to update the 20-year-old e-commerce act of 2000. It's also encouraging to see quite a number of legislative and executive initiatives towards e-commerce and digitalization in general. And some of these are the Internet Transactions Act, the Better Normal Act, the E-Government Act, the National Digital Careers Act, the National Digital Transformation Policy, Senate Bill 1470, and some others. So in closing, madali has two meanings in Filipino, easy and to hasten. Sa e-commerce, nagiging madali at napapadali para sa bawat Pilipino na maging bahagi ng bagong ekonomiya. Salamat DTI and partner institutions such as the BSP, DICT, DOLE, PSA, DOF, DOTR, BIR, BOC, TESDA, and the Philippine Postal Corporation for cementing the foundation of the sector, e-commerce sector, as it grows its share of wallet and is expected to grow larger in the months and years to come as we all enter a cashless Philippines. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po. I would like to thank all our actors, and I would also like to call on Secretary Mon Lopez for a message for our actors. Sec Mon.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I just like to give my special thanks to all the panelists. You've seen the wide range of panelists and the sectors they represent. Simply shows the wide ecosystem of e-commerce, and really thank everyone for being part of this launch. This is just the beginning, or shall we say somewhere in the middle, because the beginning was as narrated by Asakine, a lot of interaction surveys, focus group discussions, and a lot of research work done. And so, by the way, I'd like to congratulate Asakine and her team for a job well done, excellent preparation, together with all the partners that she acknowledged. Hindi po ito, this is not the work only of DTI, definitely all the other agency partners, as well as the private sector. They are the guys in business, really, and e-commerce, and provided us a more realistic picture so that we can plan better. Even on the numbers, some of our reporter friends are texting me how come the targets are quite widely different. We're very far from the earlier issued roadmap, and it was really just because of the definition, and there are a lot more source documents and data that would give us a more precise, more accurate projection this time around. You've seen the other partners. We thank Dole, of course, my partner, Sec Belio, and his concern on labor and social protection. That certainly, as we pursue this roadmap, we should not forget all these concerns. And labor definitely has a big role, especially in the delivery platform. And we've seen also more and more opportunities in that regard. That's why even during the pandemic, it has somehow the presence of a lot of delivery service providers, really cushioned the impact of the pandemic. And we thank Dole for that partnership there. Of course, customs, the flow of goods, cross borders. Thank you, DEPCOM, James. The upskilling part of given this relatively new sector. So TESDA, maraming salamat. Thank you very much. You're really a partner in a lot of upskilling activities for 4IR, AI, and many things, including the preparations for e-commerce. Platforms like Lazada, big partner, as we were preparing the plan. Thank you, Mr. Ray, and to your team, who was been very instrumental in the preparation of the roadmap or updating of the roadmap. Of course, Quadex has been really much, Ms. Mia, for sharing your expertise, you and your team. And PCCI partner natin sa chairperson being Libhoco. So it's always with us, helping us in mentoring, as well as in giving advice on how we can treat certain complaints. And this time, not only on the brick and mortar business, but even on online, on the e-commerce. We've heard the chairman of PhilPost, salamat po, Mr. Chairman, for really extending services for online selling. And I know you're into a lot of doing a lot of innovation at the PhilPost itself and really re-engineering the business model for PhilPost. So magtulungan po tayo. We congratulate you also on your initiatives. Partners, of course, in the registration and making sure that businesses are registered, whether offline or online. So PIR, salamat kay Com Billy Dulay, and of course DEPCOM Nani for joining us this afternoon. PSP has been a co-collaborator in financial inclusion, fintech, digitalization, and providing the regulatory framework. This is one aspect I was relating to earlier. And if you want to promote the trust in e-commerce, gain trust so that you can gain more users, more confidence on behalf of the sellers as well as the buyers, then definitely BSP is a big partner. They're like also, of course, the central bank in online payments. So they are providing the regulatory framework. And we are also part of the subcommittee on financial inclusion or financial technology. And the ICT, of course, we are relying heavily on them for interconnectivity. Partners like FinTech, online payment, like Paymaya, maraming salamat, long-time partner, Dolgea. It's really an entire ecosystem. Kulang pa ho yan, and there's still a lot more. But for this afternoon, joining us this afternoon, I'd just like to express our gratitude to the partners. And as I mentioned, this is just the middle of getting the job done. We are relying on a faster growth. In fact, in the projection, you see somehow an exponential growth, especially this year and next year, as we project a lot more entrepreneurs joining the e-commerce bandwagon, hopefully reaching 1 million by 2022. So, and then that might be even an understatement pagka talagang lumakas itong e-commerce. and gaining more confidence on the part of the buyers and the sellers. So thank you very much to everyone who participated in this forum. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Sec.